Hey team, we've had a good week and a bit of talking about anchors and hopefully you've gleaned a lot of information from that. I want to finish off with some of the key important points, so bear with me on this one. I just want to explain a couple of the important factors of an anchor and then I'll finish this anchor series for now. So anchors fall into two categories primarily. We've got an anchor like this with lots of surface area. They're generally called plow anchors and they're good for sand, mud, shingly type bottom. They're good for digging in. The other hooky type ones like the grapnel or the traditional fisherman, they're generally good for rocky areas. Now I have been asked in my DMs, can I not just recommend an anchor? And the answer is unfortunately no, because everybody's boat is different and the areas you operate in is completely different as well. So you got to look at the pros and the cons of each anchor and your setup. But I want to just talk about the configuration now. And the configuration, you notice most anchors have chain attached to them. So why is that? Well, it's chafe. So if you are in your boat and that's just wafting away on the seabed, if it's oyster shells down there or sharp shingle, it won't take long to fray through rope and then you'll be separated from your anchor and off you go. So that's why we've got a length of chain. Now launches are all chain because in fact being all chain helps the anchor set better. It keeps the pull horizontal. But on small boats like trailer boats, we don't want all chain because it's too heavy up in the bow. So we go chain to rope. And how long should the chain be? Well, as a guide, your chain should be at least the length of your boat. That's a good starting point. And your rope, well, look, how long should that be? Well, that depends on the area you're anchoring in, but generally they come in packets of 50 meters to 100 meters. That's in New Zealand. For you guys over in America, you'll probably have to do the math here. You got your crazy imperial system there, so I think you multiply it by 3 or whatever it is. Now, how much we let out is one of the most important thing about anchoring, guys. Now, I'm not talking about fishing because if you're just anchor fishing, who cares if your anchor drags? But if you're getting off the boat or sleeping on the boat, you need to make sure that you let out enough because it's the most common cause for anchors to drag, and that's not letting out enough scope, which is the chain and rope. So we need to make sure we've got enough out, and how much is enough? And the answer is a minimum of 4 times the high tide depth. Don't forget, add on your high tide. Upwards to 6 times. So between 4 to 6 times the high tide depth of water is what we should pay out in scope if we want to have a good chance of the boat staying where it is. The key phrase that I've always been taught is, if in doubt, let more out. And you might think 6 times. So if you're in 5 meters of water, then you've got to let out 6 times that. That's 30 meters. That's quite a lot. Now people have come to me and said, oh well, what happens if you're in 20 meters of water? You're telling me I need to let out 120 meters? And the answer is quite simply, if you want to be sure to stay there, yes it is 120 meters. Don't scrimp, don't get into an area that's busy and just let out, oh I'll let out 3 times because I'm close to other boats. The consequences of that are your anchor will drag and you'll bump into other boats. That's why we generally like to go into bays when we're anchoring overnight, because it's shallow. We don't want to be anchoring in 20 meters of water. We like to get in. To be honest, a low tide depth of 5 meters is pretty comfortable. I personally don't like anchoring my boat in less than a low tide. The lowest predicted tide of 3 meters would be the minimum I anchor in, but everyone's got different operating parameters. So look, that's the real basics around your anchors. If you've got any kind of quirky questions that you even think that the rest of the team might be interested in, please feel free to fire me a DM. I'm happy to post some answers in stories and so on and so forth. So hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully I'll help you out, and I'll catch you in the next video.